The words on the screen glowed with a sterile, impersonal light, a stark contrast to the warm, late-afternoon sun filtering through the bay window of my home office in Austin. The office was my sanctuary, a meticulously organized space of rich mahogany, worn leather, and the faint, comforting scent of old books and fresh coffee. It was a room built on logic, order, and the quiet satisfaction of a problem well solved. But the problem flashing on my phone screen was one I had never anticipated solving in such a brutal, detached manner. "I'm leaving you and moving to Los Angeles with my 22-year-old girlfriend. I've already cleaned out our shared account. LOL." I stared at the text message, my fingers frozen over the keyboard of my laptop. The words seemed to blur, to dance and rearrange themselves into something nonsensical. A joke, perhaps? A misplaced message from one of Trevor's crass friends? But his name was there at the top of the conversation, a digital tombstone on our 15 years of marriage. And then there was the final, gut-wrenching punctuation. LOL. Laughing out loud. He was laughing. 15 years, reduced to a text message with a laughing acronym at the end. I leaned back in my high-backed leather chair, the one I'd bought myself after landing the Sundale financial account, and took a slow, deep breath. The air filled my lungs, but it didn't seem to carry any oxygen. I expected a tidal wave of emotion, grief, rage, a shattering devastation that would leave me in pieces on the polished hardwood floor. I waited for the tears to sting my eyes, for the scream that would surely rip from my throat. But it never came. Instead, a strange, creeping sense of calm washed over me. It was cold, sharp, and utterly unexpected. It felt less like an emotion and more like the flick of a switch, the moment a highly tuned machine whirs to life, its purpose clear, its function precise. It was relief. The reality hit me not as a wave, but as a series of cold, hard facts, laid out like the financial statements spread across my desk. He thought he was delivering a crushing blow, a knockout punch that would leave me reeling and helpless. He had no idea what he had actually just walked into. He had no idea who he was really dealing with. My name is Amanda Griffin. I'm 41 years old, and for the past decade and a half, I had thought I was building a life with Trevor, my husband. I am a financial advisor for Sundale Financial, one of the top firms in Texas. But I'm not just any financial advisor. My specialty, the niche that had made my career, was asset protection. I spent my days helping high-net-worth clients shield their wealth from ex-spouses, disgruntled business partners, and unforeseen catastrophes. I was an expert in creating ironclad trusts, in structuring finances so that they were untouchable, in seeing the warning signs of financial ruin long before they appeared on the horizon. And for the past 3 months, I had been my own best client. I looked at my phone again, then at the stack of legal documents to my right. The irony wasn't lost on me. There, spread across my workspace, were asset protection papers, trust documents, and financial statements that told a very, very different story than the one Trevor believed he knew about our finances. He had always underestimated me, treating my career as some cute little hobby that kept me busy. He never paid attention to the complex financial structures I created for my clients, never bothered to understand the sophisticated asset protection strategies I implemented daily. His eyes would glaze over whenever I tried to discuss portfolio allocations or tax strategies. "You handle the boring money stuff, Mandy," he'd say with a dismissive wave of his hand. "That's what you're good at." He had no idea just how good. The first crack in our marriage had appeared about a year ago, so subtle I almost dismissed it. Trevor, who had always been a homebody, started working late. His commercial real estate business, which had been moderately successful, was suddenly demanding all-nighters, or so he claimed. Then came the credit card charges at expensive restaurants we had never been to together, receipts for jewelry I never received, and hushed phone calls that ended abruptly the moment I walked into the room. They were the classic signs, the red flags I warn my clients about every single day. The sudden secrecy, the unexplained expenses, the emotional distance. It was a textbook case. 3 months ago, After finding a receipt for a weekend trip to a Dallas boutique hotel he'd supposedly taken for a conference, I stopped denying what was right in front of me. My first instinct was to confront him, to scream and cry and throw 15 years of broken promises in his face. But my professional instincts, honed over years of dealing with betrayal and deceit, took over. I didn't confront him with tears and accusations. Instead, I did what I do best. I called my attorney, Patricia Walsh. Patricia had been my friend since law school, a shark in a Chanel suit with a mind as sharp as a stiletto heel. We met for lunch at a quiet cafe downtown. I laid out my suspicions, my voice steady and devoid of emotion, presenting the evidence as if it were a client's case file. Patricia stirred her espresso, her gaze unwavering. "Amanda, you're right to be proactive," she said, her tone all business. "Too many people wait until it's too late to protect themselves. What exactly are you thinking?" I outlined my plan, a strategy as complex and layered as any I had ever designed. We would establish irrevocable trusts to hold our major assets. "The key, Patricia," I explained, "is that these aren't hidden assets. Everything will be properly documented and completely legal. We're simply ensuring that marital property is protected from dissipation or fraudulent transfer." Over the next 2 months, we systematically moved assets into protected structures. The house in Tarrytown, with its mature oak trees and a view of the downtown Austin skyline in the distance, had been purchased primarily with my income, a fact I had meticulously documented. It was transferred into a trust with me as the primary beneficiary. Our investment accounts, which totaled nearly $800,000, were restructured into protected trusts. My own retirement accounts, worth over $400,000, were secured with additional beneficiary protections. The beauty of the strategy was that Trevor never noticed. He had never paid attention to our financial statements, always leaving the boring money stuff to me. When bank statements arrived, I reviewed them. When investment documents needed signatures, I handled them. He'd scribble his name without a second glance, his mind already on his golf game or his next business trip. His disinterest, which had once frustrated me, now worked perfectly in my favor. We left only the joint checking account untouched, a small pool of about $15,000 for monthly expenses. To Trevor, this account represented our entire financial picture. He had no idea it was barely a fraction of our actual wealth. I picked up my phone and typed back a simple response to his life-altering text. "Best wishes, Trevor." Then I smiled. I didn't feel the sting of betrayal anymore, only the cold, satisfying click of a well-executed plan falling into place. 3 weeks ago, Trevor had announced he was taking that solo trip to Los Angeles to explore new business opportunities. He was gone for a week, during which time I completed the final asset protection documents with Patricia. When he returned, he was distant and distracted, barely making conversation over dinner. I knew something was coming. What I didn't expect was that he would be so careless about how he delivered the news. A text message. After 15 years. With internet slang. Now, as I sat in my office reading his message for the 3rd time, I realized that Trevor had just made the biggest financial mistake of his life. I spent the rest of that Tuesday afternoon working as if nothing had happened. I reviewed client portfolios, returned phone calls, and attended a team meeting about quarterly performance metrics. My colleagues at Sundale Financial had no idea that my personal life had just imploded via text message. Around 6 p.m., my phone started ringing. Trevor's name appeared on the screen, but I let it go to voicemail. Then he called again. And again. By the 5th call, I decided to answer. "Amanda, we need to talk." Trevor's voice was tense, lacking the confident smugness I had expected. "I thought your text message was quite clear," I replied calmly, still sitting at my desk. "You're leaving for Los Angeles with your girlfriend. You've taken our money. What else is there to discuss?" "Look, I know this is sudden," he stammered, "but I've been unhappy for years. This isn't just about Madison. She's just helped me realize what I want in life. I deserve to be happy, Amanda. We both do." Madison. So that was her name. I made a mental note while keeping my voice steady. I understand. I hope Los Angeles works out for you. The silence on his end stretched long enough that I wondered if the call had dropped. Finally, Trevor spoke again, and now I could hear confusion in his voice. You're taking this awfully well. What would you like me to say, Trevor? That I'm devastated? That I'm going to beg you to stay? We're both adults. If you've found someone who makes you happier, then you should be with her. Well, yes. I mean, I'm glad you're being mature about this. I was worried you might try to make things difficult. I almost laughed at that. If only he knew how difficult things were about to become for him. I have no interest in making anything difficult. You've made your choice, and I respect that. When are you planning to leave? Actually, I'm already in Los Angeles, he said, a hint of pride creeping back into his voice. I flew out this morning after I sent you that text. Madison and I are looking at apartments in West Hollywood. It's incredible out here, Amanda. The weather, the opportunities, the lifestyle. I should have done this years ago. So he was already gone. Already spending our money, or so he thought. That sounds wonderful. I'm happy for you both. There's one thing though. Trevor's voice took on a more serious tone. I'll need access to our other accounts. The joint checking account I cleared out was great for initial expenses, but we'll need more for a deposit on a decent place and to get established out here. And there it was. The moment I had been waiting for. What other accounts, Trevor? I asked, my voice as smooth as glass. Another long pause. What do you mean, what other accounts? Our savings, our investment accounts, the money market account, all of it. I know you handle the financial stuff, but I'm entitled to half of everything. I smiled, grateful that he couldn't see my face through the phone. Trevor, I'm not sure what you're referring to. We have the joint checking account, which you said you've already emptied. As for other accounts, well, those are held in various trusts and protected structures for tax and estate planning purposes. Surely you remember signing those documents. What documents? What are you talking about? His voice was rising in panic. The trust documents, the asset protection papers, the estate planning updates. We discussed all of this, remember? You said you trusted my judgment with the financial planning and that you didn't need to worry about the details. I could hear Trevor's breathing becoming more rapid. Amanda, I need access to that money. I need it now. I'm afraid that's not how trusts work, Trevor. Those assets are protected and can't be arbitrarily distributed. Perhaps you should consult with an attorney about your options. The following Monday morning, I was reviewing quarterly reports when my assistant informed me that Trevor was on line 1, calling from yet another Los Angeles number. Amanda, this has gone far enough. His voice was strained, lacking any of the confident arrogance from his initial text message. I need money, and I need it now. Madison and I are living in my rental car. Do you understand that? We're homeless. I set down my pen and leaned back in my chair. Trevor, I'm sorry to hear about your difficulties, but I'm not sure how I can help you. You made your choice to leave our marriage and move to Los Angeles. These are the consequences of that choice. Don't give me that. You deliberately hid our money. You planned this whole thing. I protected marital assets through legal estate planning structures, just as I do for my clients every day, I said coolly. You had every opportunity to participate in those discussions, but you chose not to. You said, and I quote, that you trusted my judgment with financial matters. I want a divorce, Amanda, but I want my fair share. Then file for divorce, Trevor. But understand that the assets you're referring to are no longer marital property in the traditional sense. They're held in irrevocable trusts with specific distribution requirements. What does that mean? He demanded. It means you should have paid attention during our financial planning meetings instead of watching television. It means you should have read the documents you signed instead of dismissing them as boring paperwork. The silence stretched between us before Trevor spoke again, and this time his voice was desperate. Amanda, please. I made a mistake. Madison left me yesterday. She said this isn't what she signed up for and flew back to Dallas. I'm alone, I'm broke, and I don't know what to do. Best wishes, Trevor, I said, and for the final time, I hung up the phone. 2 weeks later, I received the divorce papers. Trevor had filed in Los Angeles. Patricia reviewed them with obvious amusement during our meeting at her downtown Austin office. He's asking for spousal support, half of all marital assets, and damages for what he calls financial manipulation and deceit, Patricia said, flipping through the documents. His attorney is arguing that you deliberately concealed assets to prevent him from accessing his fair share. What are our chances? I asked. Excellent. Trevor's own text message acknowledging that he cleaned out your shared account demonstrates that he had access to marital funds and chose to take them when he left. The fact that he didn't understand the full scope of your financial planning doesn't invalidate the legal structures we created. Patricia pulled out a thick folder. I've prepared our response. We're counterfiling for divorce here in Austin, where we have jurisdiction, since this is where you reside and where the marital home is located. We're also requesting that Trevor return the $15,000 he took from the joint account, plus interest. Can we actually get that money back? Probably not, Patricia admitted with a grin. But it establishes our position that he was the one who inappropriately accessed marital funds, not you. A month later, Trevor called one final time. His voice was different now, defeated and hollow. Amanda, I'm coming back to Austin. I can't afford to stay in Los Angeles anymore, and my attorney says the divorce will be easier to resolve if we're in the same state. That's your choice, Trevor. I want you to know that I understand now what you did. It was brilliant, actually. I completely underestimated you. I simply protected our assets the way I protect my clients' assets every day. You chose not to pay attention to that process. Can we work something out? Some kind of settlement that doesn't leave me with nothing, he pleaded. Talk to your attorney, Trevor. All communication should go through legal channels now. I hung up and went back to my work, feeling truly free for the first time in months. 6 months after Trevor's text message, our divorce was finalized. He received a small settlement, enough to start over, but nowhere near the millions he had expected. I kept the house, most of our investments, and my independence. As I sat in my home office, that had become the center of my careful planning, I reflected on how strategic patience had been far more powerful than any emotional reaction could have been. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply being better prepared than those who underestimate you.